Captain Veltar stood in the center of his ship's bridge, his forearms moving gracefully as he worked at the control panels. The bridge of the Serenity's grace was quiet, except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Through the large windows, colorful gases from the nebula swirled in beautiful patterns. Veltar was tall and thin, like all Kitharans. His skin was almost see-through, and blue blood moved through visible veins. His people came from a peaceful world with light gravity and gentle weather. They spent their time studying the stars and making friends with other species across the galaxy. "Captain," called his communications officer Zethnal. "We are getting a message from home." Veltar's large, dark eyes focused on the main screen as the message began to play. The face of High Commander Yothron appeared. The old Kitharan looked scared and tired. "All ships, this is an emergency message," Yothron said, his voice shaking. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected a massive fleet coming from dark space. We have identified them as harvesters." The bridge went silent. Every Kitharan knew stories about the harvesters, but they were supposed to be myths. Ancient machines that ate entire star systems, leaving nothing behind. "The first wave hit the outer colonies yesterday," Yothron continued. "Kelmtar system is gone. Volthnal system is gone. They strip everything. Planets, moons, even the stars themselves. Our defense corps is fighting them, but we are losing badly." Veltar felt his heart beating fast. The defense corps was the pride of their civilization. They had the best technology and the smartest commanders. If they were losing, all research vessels must return home immediately, Yothron said. "We need every ship to help with evacuations. The harvesters move fast. Our scientists think we have maybe 2 weeks before they reach Kith Prime." The message ended. The bridge stayed quiet for a long moment. "Captain," whispered Navigator Lethmol. "What do we do?" Veltar looked at his crew. They were all young and had never seen real war. None of them had. The Kitharans had not fought a major battle in over 300 years. "Set course for home," Veltar ordered. "Maximum speed." "Yes, Captain," Lethmol replied, his hands shaking as he worked the controls. As the ship began to turn, Science Officer Pethvar spoke up. "Captain, I have been studying the old records about harvesters. They are not alive, but they learn and adapt. Every weapon we use against them, they find ways to block. Every tactic we try, they counter." "Then how do we stop them?" asked Zethnal. Pethvar's skin went pale. "The old records say no one ever has. The journey home took 6 days. During that time, they got more messages from the Defense Corps. The news got worse each day. The harvesters had destroyed 2 more systems. Their ships were huge. Some were 20 kilometers long. They had shields that could stop any known weapon. When they attacked a planet, they sent down millions of small machines that ate everything and turned it into more ships. On the 4th day, they received a message that made Veltar's blood run cold. The Defense Corps had tried to make a stand at Morthkin's system. They had gathered 200 of their best ships and waited for the harvesters. The battle lasted 3 hours. Only 12 Kitharan ships escaped. 200 ships, whispered Gunnery Officer Korthvin. He was the only one on the crew who had any military training, and even he had never seen combat. "How many harvester ships were destroyed?" 3, Pethvar replied after checking the report. "Only 3. When they finally reached Kitharan space, Veltar could see the signs of panic everywhere. Civilian ships flew in all directions, loaded with families trying to escape. Military vessels moved in tight groups, their crews probably as scared as his own. The Serenity's Grace was ordered to join a small patrol fleet near the edge of their system. They were told to watch for harvester scouts and warn the home fleet if they saw anything. For 2 days, they waited. Then sensor operator Nethcole called out from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up something big coming out of hyperspace. Very big." On the main screen, space began to bend and twist. Then the first harvester ship appeared. It was black and angular, covered with strange symbols that seemed to move when you looked at them. More ships followed. Dozens, then hundreds. "Send the warning to home fleet," Veltar ordered. "All ships retreat to rally point 7. But as they turned to run, Zethnal spoke up. "Captain, we are too far from any friendly forces. If the harvesters catch us..." Veltar understood. They would die alone, and no one would even know what happened to them. "Open a channel," he said suddenly. "All frequencies. Maximum power." "Captain?" Zethnal looked confused. "Maybe someone else is out there. Maybe someone who can help." "Sir, the only thing in this direction is the quarantine zone. No one goes there." Why not? Pethavar spoke up nervously. The star charts say it is full of primitive worlds, dangerous species that solve everything with violence. They call them Deathworlders. Veltar thought about this. His people had always avoided contact with violent species. They believed that talking and sharing knowledge was always better than fighting. But now his people were facing extinction. Send the message anyway, he ordered. Sethnal's hands moved over his controls. Channel open, Captain. Veltar took a deep breath. He had no idea if anyone would hear this message. He had no idea if anyone would care, but he had to try. This is Captain Veltar of the Ketheran research vessel Serenity's Grace, he began. We are sending this message to anyone who can hear it. My people are under attack by an ancient enemy called the Harvesters. They are machines that destroy entire star systems. Our military cannot stop them. He paused, watching the Harvester fleet spread out across space like a disease. We are a peaceful people. We have never asked for help in war before, but now we are desperate. If there is anyone out there who can help us, please. We are running out of time. Our homeworld has maybe 1 week before they arrive. We do not ask you to die for us. We only ask that you remember us when we are gone. Veltar gave their location and what little they knew about Harvester weaknesses. Then he closed the channel. Will anyone answer? Asked Nethicol. I do not know, Veltar admitted. But it was our only choice. The small Ketheran fleet began moving toward their homeworld, staying ahead of the advancing Harvesters. Behind them, the enemy ships moved forward like a black tide, ready to swallow everything in their path. Veltar did not know that his message had been received. He did not know that in a place his people called the Quarantine Zone, dangerous, beings from a world of storms and predators were already preparing to answer his call. He did not know that help was coming from the last place he would ever expect it. Commander Sarah Chen was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alert came in. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Cerberus had been quiet for weeks. It orbited at the very edge of human space, watching for threats that might come from the unknown, regions beyond. Sarah was a short woman with dark hair and scars on her hands from the Proxima conflicts. Like most humans who worked the outer stations, she had seen real combat. Earth's expansion into space had not been peaceful. Pirates, corporate wars, and territorial disputes had taught humanity that the galaxy was not a safe place. Commander, called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station. We're picking up something strange. It's an alien signal, but not from any of the usual sources. Sarah set down her coffee and walked over to Rodriguez's station. The young man was one of their best linguists trained to decode alien communications. What do we have? She asked. It's coming from outside the quarantine boundary. The signal is very strong, broadcast on all frequencies. Someone really wants to be heard. Sarah frowned. The quarantine boundary was something most aliens maintained, around human space. They had made it clear that humans were not welcome in the wider galaxy. The official reason was that humans were too primitive and overly violent. The real reason, Sarah knew, was fear. Can you translate it? She asked. Rodriguez nodded and put the message on the main speakers. A strange musical voice filled the station. Even through the translation software, Sarah could hear the desperation. This is Captain Veltar of the Ketheran research vessel, Serenity's Grace. We are sending this message to anyone who can hear it. My people are under attack by an ancient enemy called the Harvesters. Sarah listened to the entire message. When it ended, the station was quiet. Harvesters, said Rodriguez. I've heard that name before. Ancient machine intelligences that consume star systems. Most aliens think they're myths. Apparently not, Sarah replied. She pulled up the star charts. How far away are these Ketherans? About 40 light years. The message took 2 days to reach us. Sarah did quick math in her head. If the aliens were right about the timeline, they had maybe 5 days before their homeworld was attacked. Commander, said Sensor Operator Park. We're getting more signals. Looks like the Harvester fleet is moving. I count at least 300 large ships. Sarah studied the sensor data. The Harvester ships were massive and moving in perfect formation. She had never seen anything like them, but she recognized the pattern. It was the formation of predators that knew they were stronger than their prey. Get me Admiral Torres, she ordered. Rodriguez looked surprised. Ma'am, shouldn't we contact Earth Command first? This is first contact with a new species. Earth Command is 48 hours away by fastest courier, Sarah replied. These aliens don't have 48 hours. She had served under Admiral Marcus Torres during the Proxima conflicts. He commanded the mobile task force that protected the outer colonies. More importantly, he was someone who understood that sometimes you had to act fast. The communication took 20 minutes to reach Torres' flagship. His reply came back in 30 minutes. Chen, this is Torres. I've reviewed the alien transmission. What's your assessment? Sarah had prepared for this question. Sir, the aliens are telling the truth. Our long-range sensors confirm massive fleet movement in their direction. These harvesters are real and they're as dangerous as described. And you want us to intervene? Yes, sir. We're talking about the extinction of an entire species. There was a long pause. Sarah could imagine Torres thinking it over. He was a practical man who had spent years fighting to protect human colonies. Getting involved in an alien war was not something he would do lightly. Chen. These aliens have been part of the galaxy that keeps us in quarantine. They probably see us as dangerous savages. Maybe they do, sir. But they're desperate enough to ask for help from anyone who will listen, including dangerous savages. Another pause. Then Torres spoke again, and Sarah could hear the decision in his voice. I'm mobilizing Task Force 7. 3 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and the Ragnarok. We'll be at your position in 18 hours. Sarah smiled. The Ragnarok was an assault carrier, designed to deliver Marines to hostile environments. If anyone could help the aliens, it was Torres and his people. Over the next 18 hours, Sarah and her team worked to learn everything they could about the Kithrans. The aliens had impressive technology and were part of a peaceful alliance that spanned hundreds of worlds. They were scientists and explorers, not warriors. That explained why they were losing so badly. When Torres' fleet arrived, Sarah transferred to his flagship. Admiral Torres was a big man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. His bridge crew moved with the efficiency of people who had fought together for years. Show me what we're dealing with, Torres said. Sarah brought up the tactical display. The Kithrans are retreating toward their homeworld. The Harvesters are following, destroying everything in their path. The alien military has tried 3 major battles and lost badly each time. Their tactics? Standard fleet engagement, long-range weapons, energy shields, coordinated formations. Very civilized. Torres grunted. And the Harvesters? Adaptive technology. Their shields learn to block whatever weapons are used against them. Their hulls repair themselves. They fight like a hive mind. Perfect coordination, no individual weaknesses. Any good news? Sarah pointed to part of the display. They're machines. No creativity, no improvisation. They respond to threats in predictable ways. Torres studied the data for several minutes. His bridge crew waited quietly. They knew their admiral was planning something. Helm, set course for the Kith system, he finally ordered. Maximum speed. Sir, said his executive officer, we'll be heavily outnumbered. 300 enemy ships versus our 5. Torres looked at the man and smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Commander, we're humans. Being outnumbered is our specialty. As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, Sarah thought about what they were doing. 5 human ships were going to face an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. Most people would call it suicide, but humans had been fighting impossible odds since they climbed down from the trees on Earth. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that should have destroyed them. They had turned a hostile world into their home. Now they were going to find out if that experience was enough to save another species from extinction. Sarah checked her weapons and equipment. Like everyone else on the ship, she was ready to fight. The aliens had asked for help and humans were coming. The Kithrans had no idea what they had just unleashed. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kith system and immediately saw the devastation. 3 of the system's outer planets were gone, leaving only debris fields where worlds once orbited. The 4th planet was half consumed, with massive harvester ships attached to its surface like metal parasites. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display. Dozens of Kitharan ships fled in panic while harvester vessels pursued them methodically. The alien ships were beautiful, smooth and elegant, but they were dying. Communications, Torres ordered. Try to contact the Kitharan ships. Sir, we're getting a response from the ship that sent the original message. The Serenity's Grace. Put them on screen. The main display flickered and showed the bridge of an alien ship. Torres had seen pictures of other alien species before, but meeting the Kithrans was different. Captain Veltar appeared on screen, and several of his crew members immediately backed away from their stations. Torres understood their reaction. Humans looked like predators because they were predators. His species had evolved from hunters on a world where everything tried to kill them. Forward-facing eyes, visible teeth, compact muscular build, everything about humans screamed danger. To prey species, Captain Veltar was clearly fighting his instincts to run. The alien was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin so pale Torres could see blue blood moving underneath. His large dark eyes showed intelligence and fear in equal measure. You came, Veltar said in accented English. His translation software was working, but his voice shook. You called for help, Torres replied. We're here to provide it. Behind Veltar, one of his crew members made a sound like a whimper. Torres realized his smile was probably making things worse, so he kept his expression neutral. Your species, Veltar said carefully. You are from the quarantine zone, the Deathworlders. That's what you call us, yes. I prefer humans. I must ask, why did you come? Our species have never met before. Torres considered the question. The honest answer was complicated. Humans had spent decades being treated like galactic outcasts, and part of him wanted to prove that they deserved better. But mostly, he had come because it was the right thing to do, because someone needed help, he said simply. Veltar stared at him for a moment, then he straightened and seemed to find some courage. Admiral Torres, I must warn you, the Harvesters have adaptive technology. Every weapon we have used against them, they have learned to counter. Their shields become stronger with each attack. Our military commanders believe they cannot be defeated by conventional means. Captain, we need to meet in person to discuss tactics. Can you dock with our ship? The request caused visible panic on the alien bridge. One Catharan actually fainted and had to be carried away. Torres made a note to ask his medical team to prepare for beings with much lower stress tolerance than humans. Yes, Admiral. I will come aboard your vessel. 2 hours later, Captain Veltar and his senior officers sat in the briefing room of Torres' flagship. The meeting was awkward from the start. The humans had to dim the lights because the Kytherans found normal illumination painful. The aliens refused all offers of food and drink, clearly terrified that human consumables would poison them. Captain Chen sat beside Torres, along with his senior staff. The humans tried to appear less threatening, but it was difficult. Even sitting, still they radiated an intensity that made the aliens nervous. Show us what we're dealing with, Torres said. Veltar activated a holographic display that showed recent battle footage. Torres watched Catharan ships firing elegant energy beams at harvester vessels. The alien tactics were textbook perfect. Coordinated formations, concentrated firepower, strategic retreats when necessary. They were also completely ineffective. The harvester shields adapt within minutes, explained Science Officer Pethvar, one of the aliens who had come aboard. After the first few hits, our weapons become useless. Their hulls repair themselves faster than we can damage them. What about close-range combat? Asked Colonel Martinez, Torres' Marine commander. The aliens looked confused. Close range? Veltar asked. Boarding actions. Getting inside their ships. The Catharans exchanged glances. That would be impossible. And suicidal. Torres studied the tactical data. The harvester ships were huge, but they were also predictable. They moved in straight lines, maintained standard formations, and responded to threats exactly the same way each time. Your ships, Torres said. How tough are they? Tough? Veltar looked puzzled. How much damage can they take before they're destroyed? Our shields are quite advanced, but once they fail, our hulls are not designed for combat. A few hits will destroy us. Torres nodded. That matched what he had observed. The Kytheran ships were built for exploration, not war. They were fast and efficient, but fragile. Admiral, Captain Chen said quietly, I think I see the problem. Torres looked at her and saw understanding in her eyes. The aliens are fighting fair, she continued. Long-range, clean, civilized combat. They're trying to out-technology the enemy. And that doesn't work against adaptive machines, Torres finished. He turned back to the aliens. Captain Veltar, your people have been fighting these harvesters. The wrong way. Wrong way. Veltar's voice showed confusion and a little offense. We are using standard galactic combat doctrine, proven tactics used by dozens of species. That's the problem, Torres replied. You're fighting like civilized beings. The harvesters have adapted to civilized tactics. Colonel Martinez leaned forward. Admiral, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Torres smiled, and every alien in the room flinched. Colonel, get your Marines ready for boarding operations. Commander Johnson, I want our ships rigged for ramming speed if necessary. Lieutenant Park, prepare nuclear charges for close proximity detonation. The humans began discussing tactics with professional efficiency. The aliens listened with growing horror as the humans casually talked about tactics that sounded insane. You want to ram their ships? Pethavar asked weakly. If necessary, Torres replied. Our ships are built tough, yours aren't. You want to detonate nuclear weapons at close range? The electromagnetic pulse will disrupt their systems temporarily. You want to board their vessels with handheld weapons? Marines specialize in close-quarters combat. Veltar stared at the humans. Everything they were suggesting went against every principle of civilized warfare. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and completely insane. It was also the first plan he had heard that might actually work. Admiral Torres, he said finally. If we do this, many of your people will die. Probably, Torres agreed. But if we don't do this, all of your people will die. The alien captain thought about this for a long moment. His crew looked terrified, but they were looking at him for leadership. What do you need from us? Veltar asked. Torres's smile was fierce and predatory. Just stay out of our way and let us work. Outside the ship, the Harvester fleet continued its methodical advance toward the Catharan homeworld. The ancient machines had no idea that their next opponents would not fight by any rules they understood. The first attack came at dawn, ship time. Colonel Martinez led 30 Marines in specially modified boarding pods toward the largest Harvester ship. The pods were crude by galactic standards, basically armored boxes with engines and life support. But they were small, fast, and built to survive impacts that would destroy more sophisticated craft. Captain Veltar watched from his ship's bridge as the human assault began. Nothing in his military training had prepared him for what he was seeing. The Harvester ship fired its defensive weapons at the approaching pods. Massive energy beams that could destroy a Catharan cruiser struck the small human craft. 3 pods were vaporized instantly, but the rest kept coming, weaving through the defensive fire with impossible skill. How are they doing that? Whispered Navigation Officer Lethmol. Science Officer Pathvar was checking his sensors frantically. The human pilots. Their reaction times are incredible. They're dodging weapons fire that should be impossible to avoid. What the aliens didn't understand was that the human pilots had been trained on Earth. They had learned to fly an asteroid, fields where a single mistake meant death. They had practiced combat maneuvers in the gravity wells of gas giants. The steady, predictable fire from the Harvester ship was actually easier to avoid than the random debris storms they had trained. In the first pod struck the Harvester hull and immediately began cutting through the metal with plasma torches. The ship's adaptive shields were designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, not physical contact from something that was already touching the hull. Boarding pod Alpha 7 is through the hull, came Colonel Martinez's voice over the radio. We're inside. On his tactical display, Admiral Torres watched as more pods made contact with the enemy ship. The Harvesters had never faced boarding actions before. Their ships were designed to fight at long range, not to repel invaders who were already inside. Admiral, called Commander Johnson from the weapons station. The other Harvester ships are moving to assist. Let them come, Torres replied. Lieutenant Park, are our EMP charges ready? Yes, sir. Nuclear devices rigged for electromagnetic pulse deployment. Torres smiled grimly. The Catharans had tried to fight the Harvesters with clean, efficient energy weapons. But humans had learned long ago that sometimes the best solution was the messiest one. Fire when ready. The human destroyers launched nuclear missiles at close range, much closer than any sane commander would risk. But the warheads were not designed to destroy the enemy ships. Instead, they were set to detonate just outside the Harvester hulls, creating massive electromagnetic pulses. The aliens watched in amazement as the Harvester ship suddenly went dark. Their adaptive shields flickered and failed. Their weapons stopped firing. For exactly 93 seconds, the ancient machines were helpless. That was all the time the humans needed. Fighter Squadron leader Elena Vasquez led her pilots in an attack that made the Catharan observers sick with terror. Instead of maintaining safe distances, the human fighters dove directly toward the Harvester ships, threading between the massive hull projections at speeds that left no room for error. Target the weapon arrays, Vasquez ordered her squadron. Hit them while their defenses are down. The fighters delivered kinetic penetrators, dense metal rods accelerated to tremendous speeds, directly into the Harvester weapon systems. It was precision flying that required reflexes no civilized species possessed. But humans had evolved those reflexes over millions of years of hunting and being hunted on a world that tried to kill them every day. Meanwhile, inside the Harvester ship, Colonel Martinez and his Marines were proving that human tactics worked even in close combat. The ship's interior was a maze of mechanical corridors designed for maintenance robots, not organic life forms. But Marines had trained in similar environments: abandoned space stations, wrecked ships, hostile installations. Charges set in Engineering Section C, reported Sergeant Williams over the radio. Good. Move to Section D, Martinez replied, consulting his tactical display. The Marines were placing demolition charges at critical structural points throughout the ship. It was dangerous work. One wrong move could trigger the ship's automated defenses or cause a hull breach that would kill them all. But it was exactly the kind of impossible mission that human special forces had been doing for centuries. The Harvesters tried to respond to the boarding action by sending their own robots to stop the humans. The machines were efficient and well-armed, but they had never fought opponents who used improvised weapons and guerrilla tactics. Corporal Zhang ambushed a robot patrol using explosives made from spare ammunition and medical supplies. Private Johnson collapsed a corridor to trap another group of defenders. The Marines fought like humans had always fought when outnumbered and outgunned, with creativity, desperation, and absolute determination. On the bridge of the Serenities, Grace Captain Veltar watched the tactical display with growing amazement. The humans were winning. How is this possible? He asked his science officer. Pethvar was studying the sensor readings. Captain, the human ships are taking tremendous damage. Their hull integrity is down to 30% on the lead destroyer, but they keep fighting. Their ships should have been destroyed by now. Yes, sir, but human engineering appears to be different from ours. Their ships are built to keep functioning even when badly damaged. What the aliens didn't understand was that human ships were designed by people who had learned space travel in a hostile solar system. Every human vessel was built to survive collisions, system failures, and battle damage that would destroy more elegant designs. Human engineers didn't build things to be beautiful. They built them to work when everything went wrong. The battle continued for 3 hours. When it ended, the largest Harvester ship was a drifting wreck, its critical systems destroyed by demolition charges placed by Marines who had somehow survived inside an enemy vessel, designed to kill all organic life. 2 smaller Harvester ships had been disabled by fighter attacks that violated every rule of safe combat flying. A third had been destroyed when a human cruiser, its shields down and hull breached, rammed it at full speed rather than retreat. Admiral Torres stood on his damaged bridge, surrounded by smoke and sparks from overloaded systems, and smiled at the tactical display. Of the original Harvester force, 37 ships had been destroyed or disabled. It was the first victory anyone had ever achieved against the ancient machines. Admiral, called Captain Chen from the communication station. We're getting a message from the Kithrin fleet. Captain Veltar wants to speak with you. When the alien appeared on screen, his expression was completely different than before. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something that looked like awe. Admiral Torres, Veltar said formally. On behalf of my people, I thank you. You have achieved something we thought impossible. This is just the beginning, Captain, Torres replied. The main Harvester fleet is still out there, and now they know we're coming. Veltar nodded. What are your orders? Torres looked at the alien commander with new respect. Despite his fear, Veltar was ready to continue the fight. We regroup, repair what we can, and get ready for the real battle, Torres said. Because when we reach your homeworld, we're going to face odds that will make today look easy. The combined human Kithrin fleet began moving toward Kith Prime, where the largest Harvester force in centuries was waiting to complete its mission of extinction. The final battle began when the combined fleet reached Kith Prime. Admiral Torres stood on his bridge and stared at the tactical display in grim silence. The main Harvester force had gathered around the Kithrin homeworld like a metal storm cloud. 500 ships ranging from destroyers to massive dreadnoughts 20 kilometers long. Against them, Torres had 3 damaged human ships and 12 Kitharan vessels. The odds were hopeless by any reasonable measure. Admiral, called Captain Chen from the communications station. The Kitharan government is requesting immediate evacuation of their homeworld. They have transport ships standing by. Torres looked at the planet on his main screen. It was beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents covered with gleaming cities. Billions of innocent people lived there, people who had never hurt anyone and didn't deserve to die. Tell them negative on the evacuation, Torres ordered. We're going to hold this system. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew the math. Even with their new tactics, the humans couldn't possibly win against such overwhelming numbers. But Torres had one more card to play. Chief Rodriguez, he called to his engineer. Is the gas giant ready? Chief Engineer Rodriguez was a small woman, with grease-stained hands and the kind of stubborn determination that kept ships running when everything was falling apart. She had spent the last 6 hours working with Catharan scientists on the most dangerous engineering project of her career. Yes, sir, she replied. We've placed fusion charges at the planet's core, just like you ordered. But Admiral, when that thing blows, anything in this system is going to have a bad day. Torres nodded. His plan was simple and completely insane. The system's gas giant was massive, almost large enough to be a star. If they could destabilize its core and cause a fusion explosion, it would create a shockwave that could destroy the entire Harvester fleet. The problem was that it would also destroy anyone else in the system. Captain Veltar, Torres called on, the communications channel. This is our plan. We're going to lead the Harvester fleet into the gravity well of the gas giant. When they're in position, we detonate the charges and turn the planet into a weapon. There was a long silence before the alien captain replied. Admiral, that will destroy most of our fleet as well. Probably, Torres agreed, but it's the only way to stop them from reaching other star systems. Another pause. Then Veltar's voice came back, steady and determined. We understand, Admiral. My people are ready to make this sacrifice. Torres felt a moment of deep respect for the alien commander. Captain Veltar had come a long way from the terrified being who had first appeared on his screen. The battle began with the humans doing what they did best, charging straight into impossible odds. The human ships, battered and barely holding together, flew directly at the center of the Harvester formation. The ancient machines responded exactly as Torres had hoped. They moved to intercept, maintaining their perfect formations and coordinated attacks. They were machines, after all. They followed their programming. All ships fall back toward the gas giant, Torres ordered. Make it look good. The human and Kithran ships began what appeared to be a desperate retreat. The Harvesters followed, drawn deeper into the gravity well like predators chasing wounded prey. But the humans weren't running. They were leading. Admiral, called Sensor, Operator Park. Harvester fleet is at optimal position. Fusion charges are ready for detonation. Torres looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had followed him through impossible battles and desperate missions. Now he was asking them to make the ultimate sacrifice. It's been an honor serving with you, he said simply. The honor was ours, sir, replied Captain Chen. Torres was about to give the order when Lieutenant Park called out from his station. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures coming from the edge of the system. Something big is happening. The main screen, space began to twist and bend. Ships were coming out of hyperspace, dozens of them, then hundreds. But these weren't Harvester ships. Admiral, came a new voice over the communications channel. It was speaking accented English, but it wasn't Kitharin. This is Admiral Korthvel of the Andromedan Alliance fleet. We received Captain Veltar's distress signal. Torres stared at the tactical display as more ships continued to arrive. Sleek vessels from a dozen different species, all bearing the symbols of the Galactic Alliance that had kept humanity in quarantine for so long. Admiral Korthvel, Torres replied. Good to see you, but you might want to stay back. We're about to detonate a gas giant. Negative, Admiral Torres. Change of plans. We're going to finish this fight properly. What followed was the largest space battle in recorded galactic history. The combined fleet of humans, Kitharans, and their new allies engaged the Harvester Armada in a battle that lasted 6 hours and covered half the solar system. The aliens fought with their traditional tactics, coordinated formations, advanced technology, and precise strategy. But now they had something they had never possessed before. Humans to handle the impossible missions. Human Marines boarded Harvester dreadnoughts, while alien fighters provided cover. Human engineers rigged enemy ships to explode, while Kitharan scientists analyzed Harvester technology in real time. Human destroyers rammed enemy vessels, while Allied cruisers rescued the survivors. It was chaos and coordination. Brutality and brilliance all mixed together in a way that no single species could have achieved alone. When the battle ended, the Harvester fleet was completely destroyed. Not a single ancient machine remained to threaten another star system. The cost had been enormous. Half the Allied fleet was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Thousands of beings from dozens of species had died in the fighting. But they had won. Admiral Torres stood in the medical bay of a Kitharan hospital ship, his left arm in a regeneration chamber. The battle had nearly killed him when his ship's bridge took a direct hit, but alien medical technology was slowly putting him back together. Captain Veltar entered the room, walking carefully on legs that were still healing from his own injuries. "Admiral," the alien said formally, "I wanted to thank you personally before the ceremony." "What ceremony?" "The Galactic Council is meeting to formally end humanity's quarantine status. You and your species are being invited to join the greater galactic community." Torres considered this. For decades, humans had been treated as outcasts, too violent and primitive to associate with civilized species. "What changed their minds?" he asked. Veltar was quiet for a moment. "When the other species heard about the battle, they realized something important. You fought like demons because you had to. Your world tried to kill you for millions of years, so you learned to kill it back. And now? Now they understand that sometimes the galaxy needs demons. Sometimes civilization needs people who will do the impossible things that civilized beings cannot do." Torres smiled. "And you? Are you still afraid of us?" Veltar's expression was thoughtful. "I am still afraid of you, Admiral. But I am also grateful. And I think fear and respect can exist together." 3 months later, the first human embassy opened on the Catharin homeworld. The building was designed by both species working together, human engineering combined with Catharin artistry. Captain Chen, now promoted to Admiral, stood in the embassy's main hall during the opening ceremony. Around her, beings from dozens of species mingled and talked. Humans no longer stood alone. Through the large windows, she could see human and alien ships docked at the orbital station, their crews working together on joint missions. In the distance, construction crews were building the first mixed species research facility, where human determination would combine with alien knowledge to push the boundaries of science. The galaxy had changed. The species that had once hidden behind quarantine barriers now sought out human partners for their most difficult missions. Exploration teams wanted human navigators who could fly through impossible terrain. Scientific expeditions requested human engineers who could jury-rig solutions to unsolvable problems. Military commanders asked for human advisors who understood that sometimes you had to break the rules to win. Admiral Torres, his injuries healed, and his rank confirmed by both human and alien authorities, stood beside her. "Any regrets?" Chen asked. Torres looked out at the stars, where human and alien ships were already departing on missions that would have been impossible for either species alone. "Just one," he said. "It took a near-extinction event to get everyone to work together. Maybe next time we won't wait so long." Chen nodded. In the distance, she could see young humans and aliens training together at the new military academy. The next generation would grow up seeing cooperation as normal, not strange. The Deathworlders had found their place in the galaxy at last, not as conquerors or outcasts, but as the species that would do whatever was necessary to protect the things that mattered. And somewhere in the deep dark between the stars, if any other ancient threats were watching, they now knew that the galaxy had changed. Civilization was no longer defenseless. The humans had made sure of that.